The Srimala Sutra, the Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 1, The Merits of the Tathagata's True Dharma. Translated from Sanskrit into Chinese in the Liu Song dynasty by the Tripitaka master Gunabhadra from central India. Translated from the Chinese of Gunabhadra by Diana Y. Paul. The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of eons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. Thus have I heard. One time, the Buddha was residing in the Jeta garden of Anathapindika's park in the city of Sravasti in the kingdom of Kosala. At that time, King Prasenajit and Queen Malika, who had only recently attained faith in the Dharma, said these words together, quote, Srimala, our daughter, is astute and extremely intelligent. If she has the opportunity to see the Buddha, she will certainly understand the Dharma without doubting its truth. Sometime we should send a message to her to awaken her religious state of mind. The queen said, Now is the right time. The king and queen then wrote a letter to Srimala praising the Tathagata's immeasurable merits and dispatched a messenger named Kandira to deliver the letter to the kingdom of Ayodhya where Srimala was queen. Entering the palace, the messenger respectfully conferred the letter to Srimala, who rejoiced upon receiving it, raising the letter to her head as a sign of reverence. She read and understood it, arousing a religious mind of rare quality. Then she said to Kandira in verse, I hear the name Buddha, the one who is rarely in the world. If my words are true, that the Buddha is now in the world, then I will honor him. Since I humbly submit that the Lord Buddha came for the sake of the world, he should be compassionate with me, allowing me to see him. At that very moment of reflection, the Buddha appeared in heaven, radiating pure light in all directions and revealing his incomparable body. Srimala and her attendants prostrated themselves reverently at his feet and with pure minds praised the true merits of the Buddha. The body of the Tathagata, excellent in form, is unequaled in the world, being incomparable and inconceivable. Therefore, we now honor you. The Tathagata's form is inexhaustible, and likewise his wisdom. All things eternally abide in him. Therefore, we take refuge in you. Having already exorcised the mind's defilements and the 4 kinds of faults of body and speech, you have already arrived at the undaunted stage. Therefore, we worship you, the Dharma King. By knowing all objects to be known, and by the self-mastery of your body of wisdom, you encompass all things. Therefore, we now honor you. We honor you, the one who transcends all measures of space and time. We honor you, the one who is incomparable. We honor you, the one who has the limitless Dharma. We honor you, the one beyond conceptualization. Srimala said, Please be compassionate and protect me, causing the seeds of Dharma to grow within me in this life and in future lives. Please, Buddha, always accept me. The Buddha said, I have been with you for a long time, guiding you in former lives. I now again accept you, and will do likewise in the future. Srimala said, I have produced merits at present and in other lives. Because of these virtuous deeds, I only wish to be accepted. Then Srimala and all of her attendants prostrated themselves before the Buddha's feet. The Buddha then made this prediction among them. You praise the true merits of the Tathagata because of your virtuous deeds. After immeasurable periods of time, you will become sovereign among the gods or devas. In all lives you will continually see me and praise me in my presence in the same manner as you are doing now. You will also make offerings to the immeasurable numbers of Buddhas for more than 20,000 immeasurable periods of time. Then you, Srimala, will become the Buddha named Universal Light, or Samanta Prabha, the Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly enlightened one. Your Buddha land will have no evil destinies and no suffering due to old age, illness, deterioration, torments, and so forth. There will be no evil whatsoever, not even the word for evil. Those who are in your land will have the 5 desires of the senses fulfilled: longevity, physical power, and physical beauty, and will be happier than even the gods who control enjoyments created by others. They all will be exclusively Mahayana, having habitually practiced virtuous deeds and assembling in your land. When Queen Srimala had received this prediction, the innumerable gods, humans, and other beings vowed to be born in her land. The Buddha predicted to everyone that they all would be born there. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 2. The 10 Ordination Vows. At that time, Srimala, having received the Buddha's prediction, respectfully arose to take the 10 major ordination vows. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, I will not transgress the discipline that I have received. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, I will have no disrespect toward the venerable elders. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, I will not hate living beings. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, I will not be jealous of others with regard to either their physical appearance or their possessions. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, I will not be stingy, although I have little sustenance. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, I will not accumulate property for my own benefit. Whatever I receive will be used to assist living beings who are poor and suffering. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, I will practice the 4 all-embracing acts: giving, kind speech, benefiting others, and cooperation toward leading all beings to virtuous deeds for all living beings and not for myself. I accept all living beings without lust, without satiation, and without prejudice. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, when I see living beings who are lonely, imprisoned, ill, and afflicted by various misfortunes and hardships, I will never forsake them, even for a moment, for I must bring them peace. Through my good deeds I will bring them benefits and liberate them from their pain. Only then will I leave them. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, when I see those who hunt or domesticate animals, slaughter, or commit other such offenses against the precepts, I will never forsake them. When I obtain this power to teach all beings, I will restrain those who should be restrained and assist those who should be assisted, wherever I see such living beings. Why? Because restraining and assisting them, one causes the eternal continuation of the Dharma. If the Dharma continues eternally, gods and humans shall flourish, and the evil destiny shall diminish in number. Then the wheel of the Dharma that is turned by the Tathagata will again be turned. Because I see these benefits, I will save and never quit teaching living beings. O Lord, from now until I am enlightened, I accept the true Dharma, never forgetting it. Why? Because those who forget the Dharma forget the Mahayana. Those who forget the Mahayana forget the perfections, or paramitas. Those who forget the perfections do not aspire toward the Mahayana. If the bodhisattvas are not committed to the Mahayana, they cannot have the aspiration to accept the true Dharma. Acting according to their pleasure, they will not be able to transcend the level of common people. Because I have seen in this way the immeasurably great errors of humans, and have seen the immeasurable merits of the bodhisattvas, those great beings, mahasattvas, who will accept the true Dharma, I will accept these great ordination vows. O Lord of the Dharma manifested before me, you are my witness. Even though the Lord Buddha presently witnessed my testimony, living beings' virtuous deeds are superficial. Some of them are skeptical and extremely difficult to save through these 10 ordination vows. They engage in immoral activities for long periods of time and are unhappy. In order to bring peace to them, I now declare in your presence that my vows are sincere. If I receive these 10 major ordination vows and practice them as I have stated them, by the power of these true words, heavenly flowers will rain down and divine music will ring out upon this assembly. Just as Srimala said these words, a shower of heavenly flowers poured from the sky, and divine music rang out. It is so! It is so! What you have said is true, not false. Having seen these wondrous flowers, and having heard this music, the entire assembly no longer was skeptical, rejoicing immeasurably and exclaiming, "We wish to stay with Queen Srimala, and together we would like to join in practice with her." The Buddha predicted to all that their wish to stay with Queen Srimala would be fulfilled. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 3. The Three Great Vows. At that time, Srimala again, in the presence of the Buddha, professed the three great vows. By the power of my earnest aspiration, may I bring peace to innumerable and unlimited living beings. By my virtuous deeds, throughout all rebirths, may I attain the wisdom of the true Dharma. This is called the first great vow. Having attained the wisdom of the true Dharma for the sake of all living beings, may I explain the Dharma without wearying. This is called the second great vow. In accepting the true Dharma, may I abandon body, life, and wealth, and uphold the true Dharma. This is called the third great vow. At that time the Lord prophesied to Srimala, with reference to the three great vows, just as all forms are contained in space, so likewise the Bodhisattva vows, which are as numerous as the sands of the Ganges River, are all contained in these three great vows. These three vows are the truth and are extensive. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 4. Acceptance of the True Dharma. At that time, Queen Srimala said to the Buddha, "Having received the Buddha's power, I will now explain the great vow which is controlled by the principle of the true Dharma, being the truth without error." The Buddha said to Srimala, "I permit you to explain as you wish." Srimala said to the Buddha, "The Bodhisattva vows, which are as numerous as the sands of the Ganges River, are all contained in the one great vow that is called acceptance of the true Dharma. Acceptance of the true Dharma truly is the great vow." The Buddha praised Srimala. "Excellent, excellent. Your wisdom, or prajna, and skillful means or upaya, are most profound and subtle. You have already, for a long time, increased in virtue. In the future, living beings who develop such virtue will be able to understand you. Your explanation of the acceptance of the true Dharma is that which the Buddhas of the past, present, and future have explained, now explain, and will explain. Having realized supreme, complete enlightenment, or Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, I also speak of this acceptance of the true Dharma. I explain that acceptance of the true Dharma has merits that cannot be limited. The Tathagata's wisdom and eloquence also are without limits. Why? Because in this acceptance of the true Dharma, there are great merits and great benefits. Queen Srimala said to the Buddha, "Again, having received the Buddha's power, I shall further explain the extension of the acceptance of the true Dharma." The Buddha said, "Then please explain." Section 1. Immeasurable. Like a great cloud. Srimala said to the Buddha, "The meaning of the extension of the acceptance of the true Dharma is immeasurable. It includes all teachings of the Buddha, consisting of 84,000 discourses. Like a great cloud that appears at the time of creation, showering down multicolored rain and many kinds of jewels, acceptance of the true Dharma rains forth innumerable rewards and innumerable virtues. Like the great waters. O Lord, at the time of creation, the 3,000 great worlds and the 40 billion kinds of continents emerged from the great waters. Similarly, the innumerable worlds of the Mahayana, the supernatural powers of all the bodhisattvas, the peace and happiness of all worlds, the magical omnipotence of all worlds, and the peace of the transcendental worlds that has not been experienced by gods and humans from the time of creation, all these emerge from acceptance of the true Dharma. Like the great earth, the supporter. Moreover, acceptance of the true Dharma is like the great earth that supports 4 weights. What are the 4? The great seas, the mountains, vegetation, and living beings. Similarly, like that great earth, good sons and daughters who accept the true Dharma build the great earth and carry 4 responsibilities. Who are the 4? 1. Living beings who have parted from good friends, either have not heard the Dharma or are without the Dharma. By advising them to cultivate the good deeds of humans and gods, good sons and daughters prepare them for entering the path. 2. For those who want to be disciples or Shravakas, they present the disciple vehicle. 3. For those who want to be Pratyeka Buddhas or solitary enlightened ones, they present the Pratyeka Buddha vehicle. And 4. For those who want to be followers of the great vehicle, they present the Mahayana. These are the good sons and good daughters who accept the true Dharma, build the great earth, and carry the 4 responsibilities. Therefore, Lord, good sons and daughters who accept the true Dharma, build the great earth, and carry the 4 responsibilities, become friends without being asked for the sake of all living beings. In their great compassion, they comfort and sympathize with living beings, and become the Dharma Mother of the world. Section 2. Like the great earth, which has 4 jewel storehouses. Again, acceptance of the true Dharma is like the great earth that has 4 kinds of jewel storehouses. What are the 4? They are the priceless, the supremely valuable, the moderately valuable, and the slightly valuable. These are the great earth's 4 kinds of jewel storehouses. Similarly, good sons and daughters who accept the true Dharma and build the great earth obtain the 4 kinds of most precious jewels, namely, living beings. Who are the 4? 1. Those who have not heard the Dharma or are without the Dharma, to whom the good sons and daughters who have accepted the true Dharma present the cultivation of merits and virtuous deeds of humans and gods. 2. Those who want to be disciples are presented with the disciple vehicle. 3. Those who want to be Pratyeka Buddhas are presented with the Pratyeka Buddha vehicle. And 4. Those who want to follow the great vehicle are presented with the Mahayana. Therefore, all the good sons and daughters who obtain the great jewels, namely living beings, realize extraordinarily rare merits because of acceptance of the Dharma. Lord, the great jewel storehouse is the acceptance of the true Dharma. Section 3. Identical with the true Dharma itself. Lord, acceptance of the true Dharma means the true Dharma itself is not different from acceptance of the true Dharma. The true Dharma itself is identical with the acceptance of the true Dharma. Section 4. Identical with the perfections. Lord, the perfections are not different from the one who accepts the true Dharma. The one who accepts the true Dharma is identical with the perfections. Why? 1. Good sons and daughters who accept the true Dharma give even their body and limbs for those who respond to giving. By protecting these living beings' intentions, they teach them. When they are thus taught and caused to abide in the true Dharma, this is called the perfection of giving, or dana. 2. Good sons and daughters teach the protection of the 6 senses, the purification of body, speech, and mind, and the cultivation of the 4 correct postures in walking, standing, sitting, and reclining to those who respond to discipline. By protecting these living beings' intentions, they teach them. When they are thus taught and caused to abide in the true Dharma, this is called the perfection of discipline, or sila. 3. Good sons and daughters teach non-hatred, supreme patience, and neutrality in outer expression to those who respond to patience. By protecting these living beings' intentions, they teach them. When they are thus taught and caused to abide in the true Dharma, this is called the perfection of patience, or ksanti. 4. Good sons and daughters do not teach indolence, but the desire to practice, supreme perseverance, and cultivation of the 4 correct postures to those who respond to perseverance. By protecting these living beings' intentions, they teach them. When they are thus taught and caused to abide in the true Dharma, this is called the perfection of perseverance, or virya. 5. Good sons and daughters teach tranquility, constant mindfulness not conditioned by external objects, and recollection of all actions and speech over long periods of time to those who respond to meditation. By protecting these living beings' intentions, they teach them. When they are thus taught and caused to abide in the true Dharma, this is called the perfection of meditation, or dhyana. 6. Good sons and daughters, when questioned concerning the meaning of all things, extensively teach all treatises and all arts without trepidation, causing those who respond to wisdom to reach the ultimate in science and art. By protecting these living beings' intentions, they teach them. When they are thus taught and caused to abide in the true Dharma, this is the perfection of wisdom, or prajna. Therefore, O Lord, the perfections are not different from the one who accepts the true Dharma. The one who accepts the true Dharma is identical with the perfections. O Lord, now receiving your power, I will further explain the greatness of the true Dharma. The Buddha said, "Please do so." Section 5. Identical with the one who accepts the true Dharma. Srimala said to the Buddha, "Acceptance of the true Dharma means acceptance of the true Dharma is not different from the one who accepts the true Dharma. Good sons and daughters who accept the true Dharma are identical with acceptance of the true Dharma. Why? Because good sons and daughters who accept the true Dharma abandon three things for the sake of acceptance of the true Dharma. What are the three? They are body, life, and wealth. When good sons and daughters abandon the body, they become equal to the last limit of the cycle of birth and death, or samsara. Having parted from old age, illness, and death, they realize the indestructible, eternal, unchanging, and inconceivable merits of the Tathagata's Dharma body, or Dharmakaya. When they abandon life, they become equal to the last limit of the cycle of birth and death. Ultimately, having parted from death, they realize the limitless, eternal, and inconceivable merits penetrating all the profound Buddha Dharmas. When they abandon property, they become equal to the last limit of the cycle of birth and death. Having realized the inexhaustible, indestructible, ultimately eternal, inconceivable, and complete merits that are not common to all other living beings, they obtain the excellent offerings of all living beings. Lord, good sons and daughters who have abandoned these three, body, life, and wealth, and have accepted the true Dharma, will always obtain the predictions of all the Buddhas concerning their Buddhahood, and will be honored by all living beings. Furthermore, O Lord, good sons and daughters who accept the true Dharma without distortion and without deception or misrepresentation will love the true Dharma and accept the true Dharma, entering into Dharma friendship when the four groups of followers, namely monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, are forming rival factions that cause the destruction and dispersion of the Sangha. Those who enter into Dharma friendship will certainly receive the prediction of their future Buddhahood by all the Buddhas. O Lord, I see that acceptance of the true Dharma has such great powers. Because you are the eye of truth, the wisdom of truth, the source of the Dharma, and you penetrate all things, you are the basis for the true Dharma and know all things. At that time, the Lord was joyous over Srimala's explanation concerning the great powers of acceptance of the true Dharma. The Buddha said, Srimala, what you have said is true. The great powers of acceptance of the true Dharma are like a very strong man who only briefly touches a vulnerable part of one's body, yet causes great pain. Similarly, Srimala, barely accepting the true Dharma causes suffering to Mara, the evil one. I do not see even one remaining good act that can cause suffering to Mara in the manner that only barely accepting the true Dharma does. Moreover, the Bull King has a form without equal, surpassing all other bulls. Similarly, even just barely accepting the true Dharma in the Mahayana is superior to all the virtuous deeds of the two vehicles, because it is so extensive. The majestic bearing and uniqueness of great Mount Sumeru surpasses all other mountains. Similarly, the merit of abandonment of body, life, and wealth in the Mahayana, acceptance of the true Dharma with a benevolent heart, surpasses the merit of those who have engaged only in the virtuous deeds of the Mahayana, but do not abandon body, life, and wealth. Because of its extensiveness, of course it is superior to the two vehicles. Thus, Srimala, through acceptance of the true Dharma, explain this teaching to living beings, teach and convert living beings, and confirm living beings in the Dharma. Therefore, Srimala, acceptance of the true Dharma has these great benefits, these great blessings, and these great fruits. Srimala, even if I explain the merits and benefits of acceptance of the true Dharma for countless periods of time, I shall not reach the end of explaining it. Therefore, acceptance of the true Dharma has immeasurable and unlimited merits. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 5. The One Vehicle. The Buddha said to Queen Srimala, "Now you should further explain the acceptance of the true Dharma that was taught by all the Buddhas." Queen Srimala said to the Buddha, "Very well, O Lord, I will, upon receiving your exhortation." Then she said to the Buddha, "O Lord, acceptance of the true Dharma is acceptance of the Mahayana. Why? Because the Mahayana brings forth all the good acts of the world and of the transcendental, of the disciples and of the Pratyeka Buddhas. O Lord, just as the 8 great rivers flow from Lake Anavatapta, so likewise all the good acts of the world and of the transcendental, of the disciples and of the Pratyeka Buddhas emerge from the Mahayana. O Lord, moreover, just as all seeds are able to grow only when they depend upon the earth, so likewise all the good acts of the world, of the transcendental, of the disciples and of the Pratyeka Buddhas are able to increase only when they depend upon the Mahayana. Therefore, O Lord, abiding in the Mahayana, one accepts Mahayana. This is identical with abiding in the 2 vehicles and accepting all the good acts of the world, of the transcendental, and of the 2 vehicles. What are the 6 stations that the Lord explains? They are: 1. The continuity of the true Dharma. 2. The extinction of the true Dharma. 3. The rules of the Pratimoksa. 4. The discipline of the Vinaya. 5. Renunciation of one's home. And 6. Ordination. On behalf of the Mahayana, the Lord preaches these 6 stations. Why? Because the continuity of the true Dharma is explained for the sake of the Mahayana. Continuity of the Mahayana is continuity of the true Dharma. Extinction of the Mahayana is extinction of the true Dharma. The rules of the Pratimoksa and the discipline of the Vinaya have the same meaning, even though they are different in name. The discipline of the Vinaya is learned by Mahayanists. Why? Because one renounces home and becomes ordained for the sake of the Buddha. Therefore, the conduct of the Mahayana, which is the perfection of discipline, is the Vinaya, renouncing one's home and taking ordination. Consequently, in the case of the Arhat, there is no renunciation of home nor taking ordination as a separate vehicle from the Mahayana. Why? Because the Arhat renounces his home and is ordained for the sake of the Tathagata. The Arhat, seeking refuge in the Buddha, is afraid. Why? Because the Arhat lives in a state of fear toward all conditioning forces, as if a man holding a sword wished to cause him harm. Therefore, the Arhat has no ultimate happiness. Why? O Lord, being a final refuge, one does not seek refuge. Living beings who are without a refuge, having this or that fear, seek refuge because of these fears. Likewise, Arhats who have fears seek refuge in the Tathagata because of these fears. O Lord, Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas are afraid. Because these Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas still have not extinguished their lives, these psychophysical forces continue. They have not completed the practice of purity, and so remain impure. Because their actions are not ultimate, they still have actions to perform. Because they have not reached that final stage, they still have defilements that should be severed. Because these are not severed, one is far from the realm of nirvana. Why? Because only the Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly enlightened one, attains final nirvana, being endowed with all merits. Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas are not endowed with all merits. When it is said that they attain nirvana, This is merely the skillful means of the Buddha. Because only the Tathagata attains final nirvana, beings endowed with inconceivable merits, arhats and pratyeka Buddhas, are only endowed with conceivable merits. When it is said that they attain nirvana, this is merely the skillful means of the Buddha. Because only the Tathagata attains final nirvana, eliminating transgressions that should be eliminated and endowed with supreme purity, arhats and pratyeka Buddhas who still have transgressions are not supremely pure. When it is said that they attain nirvana, this is merely the skillful means of the Buddha. Only the Tathagata attains final nirvana, is revered by all living beings, and surpasses the Arhat, Pratyeka Buddha, and Bodhisattva realms. Therefore, Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas are far from the realm of nirvana. When it is said that the Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas meditate on liberation, have the four wisdoms, and have ultimately attained their resting place, this is also the skillful means of the Tathagata, and is taught as the incomplete meaning. Why? There are two kinds of death. What are the two? They are ordinary death and the inconceivable death of transformation for a purpose. Ordinary death refers to living beings who live in unreality. The inconceivable death of transformation for a purpose refers to the mind-made bodies of the Arhats, Pratyeka Buddhas, and greatly powerful Bodhisattvas until the time of their supreme, complete enlightenment. Within these two kinds of death, it is the ordinary death through which Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas have completely attained the knowledge said to have, quote, extinguished their lives. Because they attain realization nirvana with remainder, it is said that, quote, the practice of holiness has been completely upheld. Because their errors and defilements have been eliminated, it is said that, quote, their actions have been completed. Actions which the common people, gods, and 7 kinds of educated people are incapable of performing. Because Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas cannot be reborn, since their defilements are eliminated, it is said that, quote, they are not reborn. When it is said that they, quote, are not reborn, this is not because they have eliminated all defilements, nor exhausted all births. Why? Because there are defilements that cannot be eliminated by Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas. There are two kinds of defilements. What are the two? They are latent defilements and active defilements. There are 4 kinds of latent defilements. They are 1. The stage of all false views of monism. 2. The stage of desiring sense pleasures. 3. The stage of desiring forms. And 4. The stage of desiring existence. From these 4 stages of defilement, there are all the active defilements. Quote, what is active is momentary and associated with the momentariness of the mind. O Lord, the mind does not associate with the stage of beginningless ignorance in the same manner. O Lord, the power of these 4 latent defilements is a basis for all active defilements, but cannot possibly be compared in number, fraction, counting, similarity, nor resemblance to ignorance in power. O Lord, such is the power of the stage of ignorance. The power of the stage of ignorance is much greater than the other stages represented by the 4th stage of desire for existence. The power of the stage of ignorance is like that of the wicked evil one, Mara, whose form, power, longevity, and retainers are both superior to and more powerful than the heaven where the gods control the enjoyments created by others. Its power is far superior to that of the other stages of defilement represented by the 4th stage of desire for existence. This basis for the active defilements, more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River, causes the 4 kinds of defilements to continue for a long time. The Arhats and Pratyeka Buddha's wisdom cannot eliminate it. Only the Tathagata's enlightenment wisdom can eliminate it. Yes, O Lord, the stage of ignorance is extremely powerful. O Lord, the three states of existence arise, conditioned by clinging to existence and by defiled actions. In like manner, O Lord, the three forms of mind-made bodies of Arhats, Pratyeka Buddhas, and greatly powerful Bodhisattvas are conditioned by the stage of ignorance and by pure actions. In these three levels, namely the Arhat, Pratyeka Buddha, and Bodhisattva stages, the three kinds of mind-made bodies and pure actions are based upon the latent stage of ignorance. Because all things are conditioned and not unconditioned, the three kinds of mind-made bodies and pure actions are conditioned by the stage of ignorance. O Lord, thus the other stages of defilement, represented by the fourth stage of desire for existence, are not identical with the stage of ignorance with respect to action. The stage of ignorance is different from the four stages and is eliminated by the Buddha stages and by the enlightenment wisdom of the Buddha. Why? Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas eliminate the four kinds of stages, but their purity is not complete, for they have not attained autonomy, nor have they accomplished their realization of enlightenment. Their purity that is not completed refers to the stage of ignorance. O Lord, Arhats, Pratyeka Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas in their very last body do not know and do not awaken to the various phenomena because of the impediments of the stage of ignorance. Because they are not aware of these phenomena, they cannot absolutely eliminate what should be eliminated. Because they do not eliminate all defilements, they are, quote, liberated with remaining faults, which is not, quote, liberation separated from all faults. They have, quote, purity with remaining purification to be done, which is not purity in its entirety. They, quote, accomplish merits with remaining merits to be accomplished, which is not entirely meritorious. Because they accomplish liberation with remainder, purity with remainder, and merits with remainder, Arhats, Pratyeka Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas know suffering with remainder, eliminate the source of suffering with remainder, attain the extinction of suffering with remainder, and practice the path with remainder. This is, quote, attaining partial nirvana. Those who attain partial nirvana are, quote, turned toward the nirvana realm. If one knows all suffering, entirely eliminate the source of suffering, attains the complete extinction of suffering, and practices the entire path, one will attain permanent nirvana in a world that is impermanent and decadent, impermanent and distressed. In a world without protection, a world without a refuge, there is a protector and a refuge. Why? There is attainment of nirvana because of the differentiation between inferior and superior phenomena. O Lord, there is attainment of nirvana because of the equality of all phenomena. Because of the equality of knowledge, one attains nirvana. Because of the equality of liberation, one attains nirvana. Because of the equality of purity, one attains nirvana. Therefore, nirvana has the same quality as liberation. O Lord, if the stage of ignorance is not absolutely eliminated, then one does not attain the same quality of knowledge and liberation. Why? If the stage of ignorance is not absolutely eliminated, then phenomena more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River that should be eliminated will not be absolutely eliminated. Because phenomena more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River that should be eliminated are not eliminated, the phenomena more numerous than sands of the Ganges River that should be attained will not be attained, and the phenomena that should be manifested will not be manifested. Therefore, the accumulation of defilements in the stage of ignorance produces both the defilements that are severed by the practice of the entire path and the virulent defilements, as well as the virulent defilements of the mind, of meditation, of concentration, of contemplation, of insight, of skillful means, of wisdom, of the results of the path, of attainment, of power, and of fearlessness. These are all the active defilements, more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River, that are eliminated by the enlightenment wisdom of the Tathagata. All these defilements are due to the stage of ignorance. All the active defilements that arise are caused by and conditioned by the stage of ignorance. O Lord, among the defilements that arise, the mind and its various faculties arise together momentarily. O Lord, the mind does not associate with the stage of beginningless ignorance in the same manner. O Lord, all phenomena more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River that should be eliminated by the Tathagata's enlightenment wisdom are supported and sustained by the stage of ignorance. For example, all the seeds that depend on the earth for their life, sustenance, and growth would be ruined if the earth were ruined. Similarly, all phenomena more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River that should be eliminated by the Tathagata's enlightenment wisdom are based upon the stage of ignorance for their life, sustenance, and growth. If the stage of ignorance is eliminated, all phenomena more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River that should be eliminated by the Tathagata's enlightenment wisdom will be eliminated. If all defilements and virulent defilements are eliminated, all phenomena more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River will be attained by the Tathagatas, who penetrate them without obstruction. Omniscience is separate from all transgressions, attaining all the merits of the Dharma King, the Dharma Lord, attaining autonomy and manifesting the stage of autonomy from all phenomena. O Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly enlightened one, who has the lion's roar, the complete extinction of one's life, the complete practice of holiness, the completion of actions, and the non-acceptance of rebirth have been explained up until now based upon your lion's roar for their complete meaning. O Lord, there are two kinds of knowledge that do not accept rebirth. First, there is the knowledge of the Tathagatas, who, by means of their unsurpassed powers, subdue the four evil ones, appear in all worlds, and are worshipped by all living beings. They attain the inconceivable Dharma body, all spheres of knowledge, and unobstructed autonomy in all things. In this stage, there is no action nor attainment that is higher. Having the 10 magnificent powers of knowledge, they ascend to the supreme, unexcelled, fearless stage. With their omniscient, unobstructed knowledge, they understand without relying on another. This wisdom that does not accept rebirth is the lion's roar. O Lord, second, there is the knowledge of Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas, who cross over the fears of birth and death and gradually attain the happiness of liberation with this thought, quote, I have parted from the fears of birth and death and no longer experience the suffering of birth and death. Lord, when Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas meditate, they do not accept rebirth and have insight into the supremely restful stage of nirvana. O Lord, those who first attained that stage of nirvana were not ignorant of the Dharma and were not dependent upon others. They also knew they had attained the stages with remainder through their own efforts and would inevitably attain supreme complete enlightenment, or Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Why? Because the Sravaka, or disciple, and Pratyeka Buddha vehicles are included in the Mahayana. The Mahayana is the Buddha vehicle. Therefore, the 3 vehicles are the one vehicle. Those who attain the one vehicle attain supreme complete enlightenment. Supreme complete enlightenment is the realm of nirvana. The realm of nirvana is the Dharma body of the Tathagata. Attaining the absolute Dharma body is attaining the absolute one vehicle. The Tathagata is not different from the Dharma body. The Tathagata is identical to the Dharma body. If one attains the absolute Dharma body, then one attains the absolute one vehicle. The absolute one vehicle is unlimited and unceasing. O Lord, the Tathagata, who is not limited by time, is the Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly enlightened one, equal to the utmost limit of the cycle of birth and death. The Tathagata is without limitation. His great compassion also is unlimited, bringing peace and comfort to the world. His unlimited great compassion brings unlimited peace and comfort to the world. This explanation is a good explanation concerning the Tathagata. If one again speaks of the inexhaustible Dharma, the eternally abiding Dharma, that is the refuge of all worlds, this is also a good explanation concerning the Tathagata. Therefore, in a world that has not been saved, a world without a refuge, there is an inexhaustible, eternally abiding refuge equal to the utmost limit of the cycle of birth and death, namely, the Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly enlightened one. The Dharma is the path of the one vehicle. The Sangha is the assembly of the three vehicles. These two refuges are not the ultimate refuge. They are called the partial refuge. Why? The Dharma of the path of the one vehicle attains the absolute Dharma body. Furthermore, there can be no Dharma body other than that of the one vehicle. The assembly of the three vehicles, the Sangha, being afraid, seeks refuge in the Tathagata. Those students who go out to practice turn toward supreme complete enlightenment. Therefore, these two refuges are not the ultimate refuge, but are limited refuges. If there are living beings who are subdued by the Tathagata, they will seek refuge in the Tathagata, attain the permeation of the Dharma, and will have faith and happiness, seeking refuge in the Dharma and Sangha. These two refuges, however, are not two refuges, for they seek refuge in the Tathagata. Seeking refuge in the Supreme Truth is seeking refuge in the Tathagata. The Supreme Truth of these two refuges is the ultimate refuge, the Tathagata. Why? Because the Tathagata is not different from the two refuges. The Tathagata is identical with the three refuges. Why? Because of the path of the one vehicle. The Tathagata, who has perfected the four states of fearlessness, is the one who teaches with the lion's roar. The Tathagata, according to individual dispositions, teaches through skillful means. This is the Mahayana, and not the three vehicles. The three vehicles enter the one vehicle. The one vehicle is the supreme vehicle. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 6. The Unlimited Noble Truths. O Lord, the disciples and Pratyeka Buddhas first saw the noble truths with their one knowledge that eliminates the latent stages of defilement. With their one knowledge, one of the four wisdoms, they eliminate the source of suffering, namely, the four latent stages of defilements: know suffering, practice virtue according to the path, and realize extinction. They understand these four noble truths very well. O Lord, they do not have the most supreme transcendental wisdom, but are gradually reaching the four wisdoms and the four conditions, that is, the four noble truths. The Dharma that is not gradually reached is supreme transcendental wisdom. O Lord, supreme wisdom is like a diamond. O Lord, the disciples and Pratyekabuddhas do not eliminate the stage of beginningless ignorance. Their initial wisdom of the Noble Truths is not supreme wisdom. Lord, because they do not have the wisdom of the two kinds of Noble Truths, they eliminate only the latent stages of defilement. O Lord, the Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly enlightened one, is not the realm of all the disciples and Pratyekabuddhas. The inconceivable wisdom of emptiness eliminates the stores of all defilements. O Lord, the ultimate wisdom that destroys the stores of all defilements is called supreme wisdom. The initial wisdom of the Noble Truths is not ultimate wisdom, but is the wisdom that is turned toward supreme, complete enlightenment. O Lord, the meaning of noble does not refer to all the disciples and Pratyekabuddhas. Because the disciples and Pratyekabuddhas have perfected limited merits and have perfected partial merits, they are called noble. The Noble Truths are not the truths of the disciples and Pratyekabuddhas, nor are they the merits of the disciples and Pratyekabuddhas. O Lord, these truths are those originally known by the Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly enlightened one. Later, on behalf of the world, which is the womb of ignorance, he appeared to extensively teach what are known as the Noble Truths. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 7, the Tathagatagarbha. The, quote, Noble Truths have a most profound meaning, which is extremely subtle, difficult to know, and not of the cognitive and finite realms. What is known by those who have this wisdom is inconceivable to the entire world. Why? Because this profound meaning of the Noble Truths explains the most profound Tathagatagarbha. The Tathagatagarbha is the realm of the Tathagata, which is not known by all the disciples and Pratyekabuddhas. The Tathagatagarbha explains the meaning of the Noble Truths. Because the Tathagatagarbha is most profound, explaining the Noble Truths also is most profound, extremely subtle, difficult to know, and not of the cognitive and finite realms. What is known by those who have this wisdom is inconceivable to the entire world. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 8, the Dharma Body. If there are no doubts with reference to the Tathagatagarbha that is concealed by the innumerable stores of defilement, then there also will be no doubts with reference to the Dharma Body that transcends the innumerable stores of defilement. In explaining the Tathagatagarbha, one explains the Dharma Body of the Tathagata, the inconceivable Buddha realms, and skillful means. The mind that attains this determination then believes and understands the twofold Noble Truths. Likewise, what is difficult to know and to understand is the meaning of the twofold Noble Truths. What is their meaning? They are referred to as the conditioned Noble Truths and the unconditioned Noble Truths. The conditioned Noble Truths are the limited Four Noble Truths. Why? Because one who depends on others cannot know all suffering, eliminate all sources of suffering, realize all extinctions of suffering, and practice the entire path. Therefore, O Lord, the cycle of birth and death is both conditioned and unconditioned. Nirvana likewise is conditioned and unconditioned, being nirvana with remainder or conditioned, and nirvana without remainder or unconditioned. The unconditioned noble truths are the unlimited Four Noble Truths. Why? With his own power, one who knows the unlimited noble truths can know all suffering, sever all sources of suffering, realize all extinctions of suffering, and practice the entire path. These, then, are the 8 noble truths. The Tathagatas taught the 4 conditioned noble truths as skillful means. The meaning of the 4 unconditioned noble truths are the actions of the Tathagatas, Arhats, perfectly enlightened ones, who alone are ultimate. The actions of Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas are not ultimate. Why? Because phenomena are not inferior, mediocre, or superior. One attains nirvana. Why? With reference to the meaning of the 4 unconditioned and noble truths, the actions of the Tathagatas, Arhats, perfectly enlightened ones are ultimate. Because all the Tathagatas, Arhats, perfectly enlightened ones know all future suffering, sever all defilements, as well as the sources of all virulent defilements that have been accumulated, and extinguish all the elements in the mind-made bodies of the 3 vehicles, they realize the extinction of all suffering. O Lord, the extinction of suffering is not the destruction of the Dharma. The extinction of suffering signifies the Dharma body of the Tathagata, which is from beginningless time, uncreated, non-arising, indestructible, free from destruction, eternal, inherently pure, and separate from all the stores of defilement. O Lord, the Dharma body is not separate from, free from, or different from the inconceivable Buddha Dharmas that are more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River. O Lord, the Dharma body of the Tathagata is called the Tathagata Garbha when it is inseparable from the stores of defilement. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 9. The Underlying Truth, the Meaning of Emptiness. O Lord, the wisdom of the Tathagata Garbha is the Tathagata's wisdom of emptiness, or sunyata. O Lord, the Tathagata Garbha has not been seen nor attained originally by all the Arhats, Pratyeka Buddhas, and powerful Bodhisattvas. O Lord, there are 2 kinds of wisdom of emptiness with reference to the Tathagata Garbha. The Tathagata Garbha that is empty is separate from, free from, and different from the stores of all defilements. And the Tathagata Garbha that is not empty is not separate from, not free from, and not different from the inconceivable Buddha Dharmas more numerous than the sands of the Ganges River. O Lord, the various great disciples can believe in the Tathagata with reference to the 2 wisdoms of emptiness. All Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas revolve in the realm of the 4 contrary views because of their knowledge of emptiness. Thus Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas do not originally see nor attain the wisdom of the Tathagata Garbha. The extinction of all suffering is only realized by the Buddhas, who destroy the stores of all defilements and practice the path that extinguishes all suffering. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 10. The One Noble Truth. O Lord, among these 4 noble truths, three are impermanent and one is permanent. Why? Because three of the Four Noble Truths are conditioned. What is conditioned is impermanent, and what is impermanent is false and deceptive in nature. What is false and deceptive in nature is not true, is impermanent, and is not a refuge. Therefore, the Three Noble Truths, namely, there is suffering, there is the source of suffering, and there is the path, are not the supreme truth, for they are neither permanent nor a refuge. The Sutra of Queen Shrimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 11. The One Refuge. The one noble truth, namely, the extinction of suffering, is separate from the conditioned. What is separate from the conditioned is permanent. What is permanent is not false and deceptive in nature. What is not false and deceptive in nature is true, permanent, and a refuge. Therefore, the noble truth of the extinction of suffering is the supreme truth. The Sutra of Queen Shrimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 12. The Contrary Truths. The noble truth of the extinction of suffering is inconceivable, transcending all the conditions of the consciousness of living beings. This is also not the knowledge of Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas who, like those born blind, cannot see all shapes, or like a week-old infant who cannot see the disk of the moon. The truth of the extinction of suffering, similarly, does not belong to the condition of the common person's consciousness, nor to the two vehicles realm of knowledge. The common person's consciousness refers to the two contrary views. The wisdom of all Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas is pure in comparison with that of the common person. Quote, limited views refer to the common person's adherence to the misconception that there is a substantial ego within the five psychophysical elements, or skandhas, which then causes the two views that are designated, quote, contrary, namely eternalism and nihilism. If one considers the conditioned states impermanent, this is nihilism and not the correct view. If one considers nirvana permanent, this is eternalism and not the correct view. Because of misconceptions, there are such views. In the sense organs of the body, which are discriminative in nature, some perceive the destruction of phenomena in the present moment. Unable to see phenomena in continuity, they become nihilistic in their views because of misconceptions. The ignorant, who are unable to understand or know the momentary consciousness with reference to its continuity, become eternalistic in their views because of misconceptions. By this or that principle, they discriminate and maintain inadequate positions to an extreme degree. Because of foolish misconceptions, they adhere to erroneous conceptions and contrary views, namely nihilism and eternalism. O Lord, living beings have contrary ideas when they have acquired the five psychophysical elements of the individual. The impermanent is considered permanent. Suffering is considered happiness. The non-substantiality of the self is considered a substantial self. The impure is considered pure. The knowledge of all Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas has not originally apprehended the Dharma body of the Tathagata, nor the realm of his omniscience. If there are living beings who believe in the Buddha's words, they will have thoughts of permanence, of happiness, of self, and of purity. These are not contrary views, but are correct views. Why? The Dharma body of the Tathagata is the perfection of permanence, the perfection of happiness, the perfection of the substantial self, and the perfection of purity. Those who see the Dharma body of the Buddha in this way are said to see correctly. Those who see correctly are the true sons and daughters of the Buddha. They arise from the Buddha's words, from the true Dharma, and from the conversion to the Dharma, attaining the remaining benefits of the Dharma. O Lord, pure wisdom is the perfection of wisdom that belongs to all Arhats and Pratyeka Buddhas. This pure wisdom, although it is called pure wisdom, with reference to the conditioned noble truth of the extinction of suffering, is not the realm of unconditioned wisdom. Of course, the wisdom of those beginning to study the four basic truths, that is, the Four Noble Truths, also does not belong to the realm of unconditioned wisdom. Why? The three vehicles' first actions were not ignorant of the Dharma. Because of their principles, they understood and attained enlightenment. The Buddha explained the four basic truths for their sake. O Lord, these four basic truths are the Dharma of the world. O Lord, the one refuge is all refuges. It is the transcendental and supreme refuge, namely, the truth of the extinction of suffering. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 13. The Inherently Pure. O Lord, the cycle of birth and death depends on the Tathagatagarbha, because the Tathagatagarbha is referred to as the original limit of the cycle of birth and death, which is unknowable. O Lord, Tathagatagarbha is referred to as the cycle of birth and death for a proper designation. O Lord, the cycle of birth and death is the extinction of the senses and the subsequent arising of new, inexperienced senses. This is called the cycle of birth and death. O Lord, these two phenomena, birth and death, are the Tathagatagarbha. It is worldly convention to say there is birth and there is death. Death is the extinction of one's senses. Birth is the arising of new senses. The Tathagatagarbha is neither life nor death. The Tathagatagarbha is separate from the conditioned. The Tathagatagarbha is eternal and unchanging. Therefore, the Tathagatagarbha is the basis, the support, and the foundation. O Lord, the Tathagatagarbha is not separate, not severed, not liberated from, and not different from the inconceivable Buddha Dharmas. O Lord, the basis, support, and foundation of conditioned phenomena, which are severed from, separate from, and different from the Buddha Dharmas, also are the Tathagatagarbha. O Lord, if there were no Tathagatagarbha, there would be no revulsion toward suffering, nor aspiration to seek nirvana. Why? Because the seven mental phenomena, the six sense consciousnesses, and the knowledge of their accompanying mental phenomena do not continue even momentarily, and do not accept the impressions of suffering. There cannot be revulsion for suffering, nor aspiration to seek nirvana. The Tathagatagarbha is without any prior limit, is non-arising, and is indestructible, accepting suffering, having revulsion towards suffering, and aspiring to nirvana. O Lord, the Tathagatagarbha is not a substantial self nor a living being, nor, quote, fate, nor a person. The Tathagata Garbha is not a realm for living beings who have degenerated into the belief of a substantially existent body, or for those who have contrary views, or who have minds bewildered by emptiness. O Lord, the Tathagata Garbha is the womb of the Dharmas, the womb of the Dharma body, the transcendental womb, and the inherently pure womb. This Tathagata Garbha that is inherently pure is the inconceivable realm of the Tathagata that has been contaminated by extrinsic defilements and other virulent defilements. Why? The good mind is momentary and not contaminated by defilements. The evil mind is also momentary, but is not contaminated by defilements either. Defilements do not affect the mind. The mind does not affect defilements. Then how does the mind, which is unaffected by nature, become defiled? O Lord, there are defilements and there are defiled minds. The fact that there is defilement in a mind that is inherently pure is difficult to comprehend. Only the Buddhas, the Lords, who have the eye of truth and the wisdom of truth, who are the sources of the Dharma and penetrate the Dharma, and who are the refuge of the true Dharma, can comprehend this truth. When Queen Srimala had explained the difficulties in comprehending the inherently pure mind's defilement, she was questioned by the Buddha. The Buddha, with extreme joy, praised her. Yes, it is so. It is so. The fact that there is defilement in a mind that is inherently pure is difficult to comprehend. There are two subjects that are difficult to completely comprehend. They are the mind that is inherently pure and the fact that this same mind has been contaminated by defilements. These two subjects can be heard by you and the Bodhisattva Mahasattvas who have the great Dharma. The others, namely the disciples, can only believe through the Buddha's words. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 14. The True Sons and Daughters of the Tathagata. The Buddha said, "If my disciples comply with their early stages of faith and subsequent more fervent faith, they will attain the ultimate after completing their subsequent wisdom of the Dharma that is based upon the illumination of faith." Quote, "The subsequent wisdom of the Dharma," close quote, is the insight and fundamental investigation into the realms of sensation and consciousness, insight into karmic retribution, insight into the eye of the Arhat, insight into the happiness of the autonomy of mind and into the happiness of meditation, and insight into the supernatural powers of the Arhats, Pratyeka Buddhas, and powerful Bodhisattvas. When these 5 kinds of insight have been completed, even after my final nirvana, in future generations, my disciples who have the early stages of faith, the subsequent more fervent faith, and the subsequent wisdom of the Dharma that is based upon the illumination of faith will attain the ultimate, even though their inherently pure minds become contaminated by defilements. The, quote, ultimate is the cause for entering the path of the Mahayana. Faith in the Tathagata has great benefits. Do not slander my Dharma's profound meaning. Then Queen Srimala said to the Buddha, "There are still remaining great benefits which I will explain with the Buddha's permission." The Buddha said, "Again, please explain." Queen Srimala said to the Buddha, "The 3 kinds of good sons and daughters who, within the most profound meaning of the Dharma, have separated themselves from injury to the Dharma, produce great merits, entering the path of the Mahayana. What are the 3 kinds of good sons and daughters? They are those good sons and daughters who, 1. Develop their own wisdom of the most profound Dharma. 2. Develop the subsequent wisdom of the Dharma that is based upon the illumination of faith. And 3. Revere the Lord, though they do not completely understand the most profound Dharma. What is known only by the Buddhas is not our realm. These above mentioned are called the good sons and good daughters who revere the Tathagata. Only these are the good sons and daughters. The Sutra of Queen Srimala of the Lion's Roar. Chapter 15. Srimala. Srimala said, "All the remaining living beings who stubbornly cling to false teachings instead of to the most profound Dharma turn their backs to the true Dharma and habitually practice the corrupt ways of various heterodoxies. These corrupt ways must be subdued by the Dharma King's powers and by the powers of the divine Nagas." When Queen Srimala and her attendants paid obeisance to the Buddha said, "Excellent, excellent Queen Srimala. In the most profound Dharma, protected by skillful means, subdue what is not the Dharma. Maintain well its correctness. You have already been very close to the hundreds of millions of Buddhas and can explain this Dharma's meaning." At that time, the Lord emitted a most excellent light, radiating everywhere over the assembly. His body ascended into the sky, higher than 7 tala trees. Walking in the sky, he returned to the kingdom of Sravasti. Then Queen Srimala and her attendants together faced the Buddha and were transfixed by the sight of him, not moving for even a moment. The Buddha, having passed through their field of vision, caused them to be exalted. Each individual praised the Tathagata's merits and was mindful of him. The Buddha then re-entered the city. Turning toward her husband, King Maitreyasis, Queen Srimala praised the Mahayana. All the women of the city, 7 years of age and older, were converted to the Mahayana. King Maitreyasis was also converted to the Mahayana. All the men 7 years of age and older were converted to the Mahayana. Then all the citizens of the state were turned toward the Mahayana. Then the Lord entered the Jeta garden, spoke to the Venerable Ananda, and called upon Sakra, the King of Heaven. Sakra, along with his retinue, immediately arrived in the presence of the Buddha. Then the Lord turned toward the King of Heaven, Sakra, and to the Venerable Ananda, and extensively explained this text. Having explained it, he said to Lord Sakra, "You should accept and read this sutra, O Kausika." Good sons and daughters, in innumerable kalpas as numerous as the sands of the Ganges River, cultivate the practice of enlightenment and practice the 6 perfections. If these good sons and daughters learn and read this sutra and uphold it, their blessings will be immense. How much more advantageous will it be for those who explain this text? Thus, O Kausika, you must read this sutra on behalf of the 33 heavens, defining and extensively explaining it. Then the Buddha said to Ananda, "You also must accept and read this sutra. For the sake of the 4 groups of followers, you must extensively explain this sutra." Then the King of Heaven, Sakra, asked the Buddha, "O Lord, what is the name of this sutra? How does one adhere to its teaching?" The Buddha said to Lord Sakra, "This sutra has immeasurable and limitless merits. All the disciples and Buddhas cannot ultimately have insight into these merits, nor know them. Kausika, you should know all the great merits that are so subtle and profound in this sutra. Now I shall, on your behalf, briefly explain its name. Listen well, and remember this text." Then the King of Heaven, Sakra, and the Venerable Ananda said to the Buddha, "Excellent, O Lord! Yes, we will do as you have instructed." The Buddha said, "This sutra praises the supreme merits of the true Dharma of the Tathagata in Chapter 1. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 2 the 10 inconceivable ordination vows. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 3 the great aspiration that embraces all aspirations. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 4 the inconceivable acceptance of the true Dharma. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 5 the entrance into the one vehicle. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 6 the unlimited noble truths. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 7 the Tathagata Garbha. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 8 the Dharma body. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 9 the underlying truth, the meaning of emptiness. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 10 the one noble truth. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 11 the one refuge that is eternal and quiescent. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 12 the contrary truths. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 13 the inherently pure mind that is covered by defilements. In this manner, accept it. It explains in Chapter 14 the true sons and daughters of the Tathagata. In this manner, accept it. Teach the Sutra of Queen Tramala of the Lion's Roar. In this manner, accept it. Again, O Kausika, the explanations of this sutra eliminate all doubts. Be steadfast in the complete meaning of this text and enter the path of the one vehicle. O Kausika, today this scripture, the Sutra of Queen Tramala of the Lion's Roar, has been transmitted to you. As long as the Dharma continues, accept, read, extensively define, and explain this sutra." Lord Sakra said to the Buddha, "Very well, O Lord, we will reverently receive your holy teaching." Then the King of Heaven, Sakra, the Venerable Ananda, and all the great assemblies of gods, asuras, and Gandharvas, among others, heard the Buddha's teaching and joyfully put it into practice.